Dr. Sarah Chen had seen enough death in her 34 years to last several lifetimes. The emergency medical bay of Research Station Kepler 442b hummed with the steady rhythm of life support systems, each beep a reminder that someone, somewhere, was fighting to stay alive. But tonight was different. Tonight, the fight wasn't for human life. The creature on the medical table barely reached the length of Sarah's forearm. Its translucent skin pulsed with veins of bioluminescent blue, and its chest rose and fell in rapid, shallow breaths. What struck Sarah most wasn't its alien appearance, but how utterly helpless it looked. Like any infant, it was completely dependent on others for survival. "Doc, we should probably contact the brass," muttered Lieutenant Torres from the corner of the room. His hand rested nervously on his sidearm. "Protocol says any alien contact goes straight to command." Sarah didn't look up from her scanner readings. "Protocol also says to preserve life when possible, Lieutenant. This isn't a contact situation. This is a medical emergency." The infant had been found in the wreckage of what appeared to be an escape pod, crashed into the ice fields 3 kilometers from the station. The pod's technology was unlike anything humanity had encountered, with organic-looking components that seemed to grow rather than being manufactured. Most of the pod had been destroyed on impact, but a small preservation chamber had protected its precious cargo. Torres shifted uncomfortably. "Ma'am, with respect, we don't know what this thing is. Could be dangerous. Could be carrying diseases. Hell, could be some kind of weapon for all we know." Sarah finally looked up, her dark eyes flashing with the kind of intensity that had gotten her through medical school and 15 years of emergency medicine. "Look at it, Lieutenant. Really look at it. Does this look like a weapon to you?" The infant's breathing had stabilized somewhat since Sarah had connected it to the oxygen supplementation system. Its vital signs, while alien, showed patterns similar to mammalian life. Heart rate, respiration, neural activity. All the markers of a living, thinking being fighting to survive. "Besides," Sarah continued, returning to her work, "I've run every biological scan we have. No pathogens, no toxins, no radiation. Whatever this little one is, it's clean." Torres wasn't convinced. "Command's going to want to study it. Run tests. You know how this works, document." Sarah's hands paused over her instruments. She knew exactly how it worked. The infant would be classified, catalogued, and experimented on. It would spend its life in a laboratory, poked and prodded by scientists trying to understand alien biology. If it survived the process at all. "Command doesn't need to know about this yet," she said quietly. "Doc. The crash site is isolated. Your team swept the area and found no other survivors, correct?" Torres nodded reluctantly. "Then, as far as anyone knows, we found wreckage and are conducting routine analysis. By me 48 hours, Lieutenant. Just 48 hours to make sure it's stable." The infant made a soft sound, somewhere between a purr and a whistle. Its large, dark eyes opened for the first time since Sarah had begun treating it, and she felt her breath catch in her throat. The eyes were unmistakably intelligent, unmistakably aware. And unmistakably afraid. "Hey there, little one," Sarah whispered, instinctively reaching out to touch the creature's tiny hand. The skin was warm and surprisingly soft, with a texture like silk. "You're safe now. I promise." The infant's eyes focused on her face with startling clarity. Its breathing slowed, and the bioluminescent patterns in its skin shifted from the rapid, panicked blue they'd been pulsing to a softer, steadier rhythm. It was responding to her voice, her presence. This wasn't just biological function. This was connection. Torres watched the interaction with growing unease. "Doc, I really think, Lieutenant," Sarah interrupted, her voice carrying the authority of someone who'd made life and death decisions every day for 2 decades. "You have your orders. Maintain perimeter security and keep this quiet for 48 hours. That's a direct order from the station's chief medical officer." Torres hesitated, then nodded curtly and left the medical bay. Sarah listened to his footsteps fade down the corridor before turning back to her unexpected patient. "Just you and me now," she murmured. "Let's figure out how to keep you alive." The next several hours passed in a blur of medical readings, nutritional analysis, and careful observation. Sarah had always been thorough, but she found herself going beyond even her usual standards. Every vital sign was monitored and recorded. Every response to stimulus was noted. She synthesized a nutrient solution based on the chemical composition of what appeared to be the remnants of food in the escape pod, adjusting the formula until the infant showed signs of accepting it. Around hour 6, the infant spoke. It wasn't words, exactly, but it wasn't random sound either. A series of melodic tones that seemed to carry meaning, directed specifically at Sarah. The universal language of a child calling for its caregiver. "I'm here," Sarah said softly, moving closer to the table. "I'm not going anywhere." The infant's response was immediate. The bioluminescent patterns in its skin brightened, and it reached out with tiny, three-fingered hands. When Sarah offered her finger, the infant grasped it with surprising strength, holding on as if she were its lifeline. Perhaps she was. By the 12th hour, Sarah had established a routine. The infant needed feeding every 4 hours, seemed to respond well to gentle physical contact, and showed signs of rapid cognitive development. Its eyes tracked movement with increasing precision, and its vocalizations were becoming more complex, more purposeful. Dr. Martinez, the station's xenobiologist, found them during the evening shift change. "Sarah?" "What the hell?" He stopped mid-sentence as he saw the infant on the medical table. "Is that?" "Survivor from the crash site," Sarah said, not looking up from her scanner. "I've been providing emergency medical care." Martinez approached slowly, his scientific curiosity warring with protocol concerns. "Have you reported this to command?" "Stabilizing the patient first. You know how it is, Roberto. Medicine before politics." Martinez was quiet for a long moment, studying the infant. Like Sarah, he was struck by the creature's obvious intelligence and vulnerability. "What do you need from me?" "Analysis of its neural development patterns. I think it's learning at an accelerated rate, but I need confirmation." They worked through the night, documenting the infant's remarkable abilities. Its brain activity suggested consciousness levels far beyond what should be possible for something so young. It was learning human facial expressions, responding to vocal tones, and showing signs of memory formation. Most remarkably, it seemed to be learning to understand human speech. By the 24th hour mark, the infant had clearly bonded with Sarah. It became distressed whenever she left its line of sight, calming only when she returned. During feeding times, it would watch her face intently, making soft vocalizations that sounded increasingly like attempts at human speech. "Ma, ma." Sarah's hand froze over her scanner. The sound was unmistakably an attempt at human speech, and unmistakably directed at her. "Did it just?" Martinez stared at the infant in amazement. "Mama," the infant repeated, more clearly this time. Its large eyes fixed on Sarah's face with absolute trust and affection. Sarah felt tears she didn't expect. In 34 years, she'd never wanted children of her own. Her work had always been enough. But, looking down at this tiny alien being who saw her as its protector, its parent, she understood something she'd never felt before. "Hello, little one," she whispered, stroking the infant's soft skin. "I suppose I'm your mama now." The moment was interrupted by the sound of heavy boots in the corridor. Multiple sets, moving with military precision. Sarah and Martinez exchanged worried glances. "Dr. Chen?" The voice was unfamiliar, carrying the crisp authority of a senior officer. "This is Colonel Reeves, Colonial Defense Command. I need to speak with you immediately." Sarah's blood ran cold. Someone had talked. Protocol had been followed despite her orders. "Coming, Colonel," she called, then leaned down to the infant. "I'll be right back, sweetheart. Roberto's going to stay with you." The infant's skin immediately shifted to rapid, anxious blue patterns. It reached for her with tiny hands, making distressed sounds. "Mama, no," it said clearly, grabbing onto her finger with desperate strength. "Mama, stay." Sarah's heart broke and hardened at the same time. She'd been in enough bureaucratic battles to know what came next. Forms would be filed. Protocols would be followed. The infant would disappear into a classified research program, and she'd never see it again. Not if she could help it. I have to go talk to some people, she told the infant gently. But, I promise you, I will not let anything bad happen to you. Mama promises. The infant seemed to understand. Its grip relaxed slightly, though its eyes remained fixed on her face. Sarah walked out to meet Colonel Reeves with her mind made up. Some things were more important than protocol. The colonel was exactly what she'd expected. Tall, stern, with the bearing of someone accustomed to absolute obedience. He was accompanied by 4 Marines and a woman in civilian clothes who had government scientist written all over her. Dr. Chen, Colonel Reeves began without preamble. You're harboring classified alien biological material without proper authorization. This is a serious breach of security protocol. I'm providing emergency medical care to an injured infant, Sarah replied calmly. Which falls under my authority as chief medical officer of this facility. That infant is alien biological material of unknown origin and potential threat level. It needs to be secured and transported to a proper research facility immediately. The woman in civilian clothes stepped forward. Dr. Chen, I'm Dr. Elizabeth Vance from the Xenobiological Research Division. I understand your humanitarian concerns, but this discovery is too important for emotional considerations. This creature represents the first living alien specimen humanity has ever encountered. The scientific value alone, the creature has a name, Sarah interrupted. At least, it will. And, it's not a specimen. It's a child. Dr. Vance looked at her with the kind of pitying expression reserved for those who didn't understand the bigger picture. Dr. Chen, I know this is difficult, but we have to think beyond individual emotional attachments. This being could hold the key to understanding alien biology, alien technology, alien intelligence. The knowledge we could gain could benefit all of humanity. And, what about its well-being? What about its rights? Colonel Reeves' patience was clearly wearing thin. Dr. Chen, you're not thinking clearly. This is an alien entity. It doesn't have rights under human law. And, its well-being is secondary to the security of human civilization. Sarah felt anger rising in her chest. It's a baby. It's scared, alone, and completely dependent on others for survival. If we can't extend basic compassion to a helpless infant, what does that say about us? It says we're practical, Dr. Vance replied. Dr. Chen, you've had limited contact with the specimen. You can't possibly understand its true nature or capabilities. For all we know, this apparent helplessness could be an evolutionary adaptation designed to trigger protective responses in other species. You think it's manipulating me? I think you're anthropomorphizing an alien life form based on superficial similarities to human infants. It's a common psychological response, but it's not based in scientific reality. Sarah took a deep breath. Would you like to observe the infant before making your final decision? I think direct interaction might change your perspective. Dr. Vance and Colonel Reeves exchanged glances. Very well, the colonel said. But this doesn't change anything. The creature will be transferred to Colonial Defense Command custody within the hour. They entered the medical bay to find Martinez standing protectively near the examination table. The infant had grown increasingly agitated during Sarah's absence, its skin flashing rapid patterns of distressed blue light. The moment Sarah entered the room, the infant's entire demeanor changed. Its skin shifted to warm, excited patterns, and it made happy chirping sounds while reaching for her. Mama back, it said clearly, the words unmistakably human despite the alien throat that spoke them. Mama back, Mama back. Sarah moved to the table and gently picked up the infant. Immediately, it snuggled against her chest, making contented purring sounds while its skin glowed with soft, peaceful patterns. The room was silent except for the infant's happy vocalizations. Dr. Vance stared in obvious shock, while Colonel Reeves looked deeply uncomfortable. How long has it been exhibiting speech patterns? Dr. Vance asked quietly. About 12 hours, Martinez replied. It's learning at an remarkable rate. Not just speech, but emotional recognition, facial expressions, even basic social concepts. That's impossible, Dr. Vance said. Even the most advanced human infants don't show this level of cognitive development. Maybe human developmental models don't apply to alien species, Sarah suggested. Maybe this little one is far more intelligent than we're giving it credit for. The infant looked up at Dr. Vance and Colonel Reeves, studying their faces with obvious intelligence. Then, it looked back at Sarah. Bad people, it asked in its small, musical voice. Bad people take Mama away? The question hung in the air like an accusation. Even Colonel Reeves shifted uncomfortably under the infant's innocent but penetrating gaze. No one's taking Mama away, Sarah said firmly, making eye contact with the Colonel. Mama's staying right here. Dr. Chen, Colonel Reeves began, but the infant interrupted him. You bad man, it said, pointing directly at the Colonel. You make Mama sad. You make Mama scared. Bad man, go away. The infant's skin was beginning to flash warning patterns again, and its voice carried an edge that hadn't been there before. Something about its tone made the Marines unconsciously take a step back. Fascinating, Dr. Vance murmured, pulling out a tablet to take notes. The emotional intelligence is remarkable. It's not just recognizing human emotions, it's responding to perceived threats to its primary caregiver. It's protecting me, Sarah realized. Even though it's just a baby, it's trying to protect me. The infant's attention shifted to Dr. Vance as she continued taking notes. You write bad things about Mama, it said, its voice taking on a distinctly warning tone. You stop writing bad things. Dr. Vance lowered her tablet, looking stunned. It understands that I'm documenting its behavior. That level of abstract thinking should be impossible at this stage of development. Maybe it's not at an early stage of development, Sarah suggested. Maybe this species develops differently than humans. Maybe what we think is an infant is actually. She trailed off as the implications hit her. The infant in her arms might not be as helpless as it appeared. It might be far more advanced than any of them realized. The infant seemed to sense her thoughts. It looked up at her with those large, dark eyes and spoke in a voice that seemed older than its tiny body should be able to produce. Mama safe, it said simply. I keep Mama safe. Always. Colonel Reeves cleared his throat. Dr. Chen, I'm afraid this doesn't change anything. If anything, this conversation proves how dangerous this situation is. We don't know what we're dealing with, and we can't risk. The lights went out. Emergency power kicked in a moment later, bathing the medical bay in red light. But, for several seconds, the only illumination had come from the infant's bioluminescent skin, which had blazed with sudden, brilliant intensity. What just happened? Colonel Reeves demanded. Martinez was at the computer terminal, fingers flying over the keyboard. Main power grid just had a massive surge. Every system on the station spiked simultaneously for about 3 seconds, then went to emergency backup. That's impossible, Dr. Vance said. Our systems are shielded and isolated. Nothing should be able to cause a station-wide power surge. Sarah looked down at the infant in her arms. Its skin had returned to normal patterns, and it looked completely innocent. But she'd felt something in that moment when the lights went out. A sense of vast intelligence, vast power, carefully contained within that tiny body. You did that, didn't you? She whispered. The infant looked up at her with eyes that seemed ancient despite its apparent youth. Bad people want to take Mama away, it said simply. I don't let them. Colonel Reeves was backing toward the door, his hand moving to his sidearm. Dr. Chen, step away from the creature immediately. That's a direct order. No. Sarah's voice was calm but absolute. I won't let you take it. It just demonstrated hostile capabilities. It's a clear and present danger to station security. It's a child protecting its parent. That's not hostile, that's natural. The infant's skin began to pulse with warning patterns again as it sensed the tension in the room. Mama's scared, it said, its voice taking on that deeper, older quality again. Mama's scared of bad people. The temperature in the room dropped noticeably. Frost began forming on the metal surfaces. Several of the medical instruments started emitting high-pitched whines as their electronics were affected by some unseen force. "Stand down," Colonel Reeves ordered, drawing his weapon. The moment the colonel's gun cleared its holster, every piece of electronic equipment in the medical bay went dead. Not just powered down, but completely dark. Even the emergency lighting failed. The only light came from the infant's skin, which was now blazing with protective fire. In that eerie glow, the infant looked directly at Colonel Reeves and spoke in a voice that seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere. "You will not harm my mama." The gun in the colonel's hand grew so hot he dropped it with a curse. When it hit the floor, the metal was glowing red with heat. "Jesus Christ," one of the Marines whispered. "What the hell is this thing?" "It's my child," Sarah said firmly, her voice cutting through the fear in the room. "And, if you threaten it, it will defend itself. Just like any child would." The infant looked up at her, and, gradually its skin patterns returned to normal. The temperature in the room rose back to comfortable levels, and the emergency lighting flickered back on. "Mama's safe now," it asked in its normal, childlike voice. "Mama's safe," Sarah confirmed, though she kept her eyes on Colonel Reeves. "These people are going to leave us alone now." Colonel Reeves was staring at the gun on the floor, his face pale. "Dr. Chen, I don't think you understand what you're dealing with." "I understand perfectly," Sarah replied. "I'm dealing with an intelligent being who bonds strongly with its caregiver and will defend that caregiver when threatened. Which, frankly, describes most social species in the universe." Dr. Vance had been silent during the entire incident, but now she stepped forward carefully. "Dr. Chen, may I try something?" Sarah tensed, but the infant seemed curious rather than threatened by Dr. Vance's approach. "Little one," Dr. Vance said gently, addressing the infant directly. "Can you understand me?" The infant studied her for a moment, then nodded. "You the scientist lady. You write things about me." "That's right. I write things because I want to understand you. I want to learn about you. Not to hurt you, but to understand." The infant's skin shifted to thoughtful patterns. Understanding good. Hurting bad. Mama teaches understanding. Mama good person. Dr. Vance nodded slowly. "Your mama is a very good person. She saved your life. She took care of you when you were hurt." "Mama saved me," the infant agreed. "Mama is my family now. I protect Mama. Always protect Mama." "What about your original family?" Dr. Vance asked carefully. "Do you remember them?" The infant's skin dimmed, taking on patterns of deep sadness. "Family gone. Ship broken. Everyone gone but me. Mama found me. Mama knew family." Sarah felt her heart break for the tiny being in her arms. It wasn't just an alien infant. It was an orphan, the sole survivor of what appeared to be some kind of disaster. And it had bonded with her as its new family. "I'm sorry for your loss," Dr. Vance said softly. "But, your mama, she's human. You're not human. Don't you want to be with your own species?" The infant looked at her with confusion. "Species not important. Family important. Love important. Mama loves me. I love Mama. We are family." Dr. Vance looked at Sarah with new understanding. It's not just bonding. It's choosing family based on emotional connection rather than biological similarity. Some of the most advanced human societies do the same thing, Sarah pointed out. Adoption, chosen family structures, cross-species emotional bonds with pets. Why should this be different? Colonel Reeves was looking increasingly uncomfortable with the direction of the conversation. This is all very touching, but it doesn't change the facts. This creature has demonstrated dangerous capabilities. It cannot be allowed to remain in civilian custody. The infant's attention shifted back to him, and its expression grew stern. "You still want to hurt Mama?" "I don't want to hurt anyone," Colonel Reeves said carefully.
But I have to think about the safety of everyone on this station. I no hurt anyone if they no hurt mama, the infant said simply. I just want stay with mama. Why that bad? Colonel Reeves had no answer for that.
Dr. Vance closed her tablet and looked at her colleagues.
Colonel, I need to speak with you privately.
They stepped out into the corridor, leaving Sarah and Martinez alone with the infant. Through the partially open door, Sarah could hear fragments of their heated conversation.
Unprecedented intelligence. Security risk. Enormous scientific value. Rights of the child. Not human. More advanced than we are.
The infant listened to the voices with obvious understanding, its skin patterns shifting between worry and determination. They want to take me away from mama, it said quietly.
They want to study you, Sarah confirmed. They think you might be dangerous.
I am dangerous, the infant said matter-of-factly.
But only to people who want to hurt mama. Never hurt mama. Never hurt good people.
Sarah looked down at the tiny being who had already claimed such a large place in her heart.
What are you, really? I mean, what species? Where did you come from? The infant was quiet for a long moment, its skin shifting to complex patterns Sarah hadn't seen before.
When it spoke, its voice carried that deeper, older quality again.
My people called themselves the HFY.
We were explorers.
Gardeners.
We traveled between stars, helping life grow where it was struggling.
Making broken places whole again. Sarah's breath caught. Were?
Ship was damaged running from bad people. Bad people who hate life, who destroy instead of create.
My family, they put me in the safe place before the ship broke. Told me to find good people. Find people who help instead of hurt. And, you think I'm good people? The infant's skin blazed with warm, affectionate patterns. Mama found me hurt and fixed me. Mama gave me food and water and love. Mama fought bad people to protect me. Mama is best people.
Sarah felt tears running down her cheeks.
What happens now?
I can't let them take you away, but I can't fight the entire Colonial Defense Command either.
Mama no need fight, the infant said confidently. I grown up enough now. I can take care of mama too.
Before Sarah could ask what that meant, Dr. Vance and Colonel Reeves returned to the medical bay. Their expressions suggested they'd reached some kind of decision, though they didn't look happy about it. Dr. Chen, Colonel Reeves began formally, after consultation with Dr. Vance and Command Authority, we've decided to implement a modified containment protocol.
Sarah's grip tightened protectively around the infant. What kind of containment?
You and the creature will be relocated to a secure research facility where you can continue your caretaking role while proper scientific study is conducted.
Absolutely not.
Dr. Chen, this is not a negotiation. The creature has demonstrated abilities that pose a significant security risk.
It cannot remain in an unsecured civilian facility.
The infant's skin began shifting to warning patterns again.
More bad people want to hurt mama?
Nobody wants to hurt your mama, Dr. Vance said quickly, kneeling down to the infant's eye level.
We just want to make sure everyone is safe. Safe means mama and me stay together?
Yes, Dr. Vance confirmed. You would stay together.
But, not here, Sarah added. In a laboratory.
Where you would spend your life being studied like an experiment.
The infant looked between the adults, its intelligence clearly processing the implications. Mama no want to go to lab place?
I want to stay here, with you, living a normal life, Sarah said honestly. The infant nodded slowly, then looked directly at Colonel Reeves. You want to take mama to lab place?
Study me, study mama.
Keep us like pets in cage. It's not a cage, Colonel Reeves said defensively.
It's a research facility with proper security and scientific equipment.
Sound like cage to me, the infant replied. Its voice was still childlike, but there was steel underneath it.
I no go to cage. Mama no go to cage. You don't have a choice in this matter.
The infant's skin suddenly blazed with patterns Sarah had never seen before, complex geometries that seemed to shift and flow in impossible ways. When it spoke, its voice carried harmonics that made the air itself vibrate. I am Keshvar, last child of the gardener ships. I have chosen my family. I have claimed my protection rights. By the ancient laws that govern all thinking beings, you will not separate us. The temperature in the room plummeted. Frost formed on every surface. The emergency lighting flickered and dimmed. And Sarah could swear she heard something like music in the air, a deep thrumming that seemed to come from the very structure of the station itself. What are you doing? Colonel Reeves demanded, backing toward the door. I am calling, the infant said simply. My people are gone, but their promises remain. Those who help the Keshvar will be helped. Those who harm the Keshvar will be stopped. The station's communication array suddenly burst to life with activity. Martinez, who had been monitoring the systems, stared at his screen in amazement. Doc, we're getting responses. Hundreds of them. From ships we've never seen before. The infant looked up at Sarah with eyes that held depths of ancient knowledge. Mama saved last Keshvar child. Now all of Mama's people under Keshvar protection. Forever. Sarah realized that everything had just changed. Not just for her and the infant, but for all of humanity. The tiny being in her arms wasn't just an orphan alien child. It was the heir to something vast and powerful, something that had been waiting for someone worthy of their protection. And, somehow, by simply doing what felt right, by extending compassion to a helpless being, Sarah had just changed the course of human history. The infant snuggled closer to her, its skin returning to peaceful patterns. Mama's safe now, it said contentedly. Family safe. We go home now. But Sarah was beginning to understand that home might mean something very different than she'd ever imagined. The fleet arrived within 18 hours. Sarah stood at the observation deck of Research Station Kepler 442b, holding her adopted child while watching ships that defied every principle of human engineering slide silently through space. They moved like living things, their hulls shifting and flowing as if made of liquid metal. There were dozens of them, ranging from sleek interceptors the size of shuttles to massive vessels that dwarfed Earth's largest space stations. Mama, those are helper ships, the infant explained, its voice carrying that ancient wisdom that still sometimes surprised Sarah. They come because I called. Because you saved me. The infant had grown noticeably in just the past day, not in size but in presence. Its features were becoming more defined, more expressive. Its skin patterns had developed new layers of complexity, and its grasp of human language was now near perfect. Whatever developmental process governed the Keshvar, it was operating at a speed that left human scientists baffled. Helper ships? Sarah asked. Mama's people have big problems coming. Bad people who destroy life are coming to human space soon. Helper ships will teach Mama's people how to fight back. How to protect all the good growing things. Sarah felt a chill that had nothing to do with the station's climate control. What kind of bad people? Before the infant could answer, Colonel Reeves approached with Dr. Vance and a woman Sarah hadn't seen before. The stranger wore the insignia of a fleet admiral, and her expression suggested she was very much out of her depth. Dr. Chen, Admiral Morrison said without preamble, I need you to understand that this situation has escalated far beyond anything we were prepared for. In the past 18 hours, we've detected the largest alien fleet in human history taking up position around our station. They're not responding to any communication attempts, and we have no idea what their intentions are. The infant looked up at the Admiral with patient eyes. I can talk to them. They are here because I called them. They wait for my words. You called them? Admiral Morrison stared at the tiny being in Sarah's arms. How? With what technology? Is not technology, the infant explained simply. Is family call. When Keshvar child is in danger, family comes to help. When Keshvar child chooses new family gets protection. New family? Dr. Vance asked. The infant looked between Sarah and the assembled officers. Mama saved me. I choose Mama as family. That makes all Mama's people family too. Keshvar law says family helps family, Admiral Morrison exchanged troubled glances with Colonel Reeves.
Dr. Chen, I need you to ask your child what exactly these ships intend to do.
Sarah looked down at the infant, who was watching the approaching fleet with obvious affection.
Sweetheart, can you tell us about the ships? What do they want? They want to help Mama's people get ready for the bad people. Bad people called the Devourers. They eat life, eat planets, eat everything that grows.
They coming to this part of space soon.
The color drained from Admiral Morrison's face. How soon?
The infant closed its eyes, and, for a moment its skin flickered with rapid, complex patterns.
When it opened them again, its expression was grave.
Maybe 2 of Mama's years. Maybe less if they smell the human growing places and get hungry faster.
Growing places? Dr. Vance asked.
Planets where life lives and grows and makes beautiful things.
Humans have many growing places.
Devourers like places like that.
They eat everything and leave empty space behind.
Admiral Morrison activated her communicator with shaking hands.
This is Admiral Morrison to Fleet Command.
We have a Code 0 xenological situation. I need immediate conference with the Joint Chiefs and the Colonial Council. Admiral, the infant said politely, you no need to be scared of helper ships.
They only fight bad people. Human people are good people. Mama proved that. How did your mama prove that? Dr. Vance asked gently. Mama found me broken and hurting. Could have left me, could have been afraid, could have thought only about Mama's own safety. But Mama fixed me instead.
Fed me, kept me warm, protected me from people who wanted to hurt me.
That is what good people do.
That is what helper ships protect. Sarah felt a warmth in her chest that had nothing to do with the infant's bioluminescence. In trying to save one small life, she had apparently demonstrated something that resonated across species boundaries. The fleet is moving, reported Martinez from his monitoring station. They're taking up defensive positions around the station. Through the observation deck's transparent steel windows, Sarah could see the alien ships arranging themselves in what was clearly a protective formation. Their movements were so perfectly coordinated they seemed like a single organism. They are making safety bubble, the infant explained. Nothing can hurt Mama or Mama's people now without going through helper ships first. Admiral Morrison was speaking rapidly into her communicator, trying to explain a situation that probably sounded completely insane to whoever was on the other end. Sarah caught fragments about first contact protocols and immediate evacuation before the infant interrupted.
Admiral Lady, you want to talk to ship captains? You can arrange communication? I can translate. Ship captains speak different from me. More old, more formal.
But I can make words go between. Within minutes, the station's main communications array was patched through to the alien fleet. The response came as a complex harmony of sounds that seemed to bypass the ears entirely and resonate directly in the listener's mind. The infant listened intently, then turned to Admiral Morrison. Fleet Captain ZLTHYSS says greetings to the humans who shelter the last child of the Keshvar. She says the Guardians are honored to offer protection to those who show kindness to the helpless.
Guardians? Admiral Morrison asked.
Helper ships are called Guardians. They promised long ago to protect anyone who helps Keshvar people.
Mama helped me, so now all humans are under Guardian protection. The implications were staggering.
Humanity had inadvertently gained alien allies simply because one doctor had refused to let an infant die.
Can you ask them about these devourers? Sarah said. How much danger are we really in?
The infant spoke in harmonious tones that seemed to make the air itself sing. The response came back immediately, and the infant's expression grew serious.
Fleet Captain says Devourers already eating planets in next spiral arm over. They move slow but steady, eating everything with life energy.
When they finish eating those places, they will smell human growing places and come here.
How do we fight them? Admiral Morrison demanded.
Another exchange of harmonic communication, then, the infant looked up with something approaching hope.
Fleet Captain says humans have something special. Something even Devourers might not be able to eat. What's that? Stubbornness. Humans do not give up. Even when smart thing is to run away, humans stay and fight for things they love. That might be weapon strong enough to stop devourers. Dr. Vance was taking frantic notes on her tablet. This is incredible. We're talking about a galactic-scale threat that we knew nothing about. Because Mama's people are young, the infant said kindly. Human people just learned to fly between stars. Most species need many hundreds of years before they're strong enough to fight devourers. But humans might be different. Humans might be strong enough already. How? Sarah asked. Because humans save broken things. Humans help strangers. Humans fight for people they love even when fighting is dangerous. That is very rare in galaxy. Most species think only about themselves. But humans think about others too. Sarah felt a surge of pride for her species that she'd never experienced before. Seen through alien eyes, humanity's tendency toward compassion and self-sacrifice wasn't a weakness. It was a strength rare enough to be worth protecting. The communication array crackled to life again, and the infant listened to another harmonic message. Fleet captain says guardian ships carry gifts for Mama's people. Technology, knowledge, weapons. Everything humans need to be strong enough to fight devourers. But only if humans want to learn. Admiral Morrison didn't hesitate. Tell them we want to learn everything they can teach us. Over the following hours, Sarah watched humanity take its first real steps toward becoming a galactic power. Guardian ships began docking with the station, bringing technology that seemed to blend science and art into forms of beauty that hurt to look at directly. The aliens themselves were as varied as their ships, representing dozens of species united in their purpose. The infant served as translator and cultural guide, explaining human customs to the aliens and alien concepts to the humans. It was developing rapidly, not just in size now but in wisdom and understanding. Sarah realized she wasn't just raising a child anymore. She was helping to shape something that would serve as a bridge between species. Mama, the infant said during a break between meetings, I need to tell you something important. They were in Sarah's quarters, sharing a quiet meal while diplomatic negotiations continued elsewhere on the station. The infant had grown enough that it could sit up on its own now, though it still preferred to stay close to Sarah. What is it, sweetheart? I am not really baby anymore. Growing very fast because of danger coming. Soon I will be adult HFY, ready to do adult jobs. Sarah felt her heart clench. Does that mean you won't need me anymore? The infant reached out with tiny hands to touch Sarah's face. We'll always need Mama. But need will be different. Less taking care of my body, more sharing thoughts and feelings. Mama will always be my family, but I will also have responsibilities to other people too. What kind of responsibilities? I am last HFY child, so I become leader of Guardian Alliance. Help coordinate protection for all good growing species. Make sure bad things like devourers do not eat everything beautiful in galaxy. Sarah understood. Her child was growing into something like a galactic president, responsible for coordinating the defense of entire civilizations. The tiny being she'd saved was destined for greatness beyond anything she could have imagined. That's a big job for someone so young, she said gently. Yes. But Mama taught me most important thing for big job. What's that? That helping one person is just as important as helping millions of people. That being kind is always right thing to do. That protecting family is worth any danger. Sarah felt tears on her cheeks. You learned all that from me? Mama saved me when saving me was dangerous. Mama fought bad people to protect me. Mama chose love over fear. That is lesson I will remember always. A chime from the communication system interrupted them. Admiral Morrison's voice came through the speakers. Dr. Chen, we need you and your child in the conference room. The Guardians have a proposal that, well, you need to hear it directly. They made their way to the main conference room, where Admiral Morrison was seated across from 3 Guardian representatives. One looked vaguely humanoid but, with crystalline skin that reflected light in impossible ways. Another was a flowing mass of what appeared to be living metal.
The third defied description entirely, existing as a constant shift between multiple forms. The infant took its place at the table with dignity that seemed far beyond its apparent age. When it spoke, its voice carried new harmonics that the Guardian representatives responded to with obvious respect. Fleet Captain Zelthys, the infant said formally, please share your proposal with my human family. The crystalline being spoke in those harmonic tones that bypass the ears.
The infant translated.
Fleet Captain says Guardian Council has decided humans are ready for full alliance.
Not just protection, but partnership.
Humans would help guard other species, help fight devourers, help keep galaxy safe for all life.
What would that mean practically? Admiral Morrison asked.
Humans get Guardian technology, Guardian knowledge, Guardian friendship.
Guardian fleets help protect human growing places. In exchange, humans use Guardian gifts to help protect other species too. Become part of Guardian Alliance. Why us? Sarah asked.
We're so new to space travel, so technologically primitive compared to you. The infant listened to another harmonic exchange, then smiled.
Fleet Captain says humans are not primitive where it matters most. Technology can be taught. Weapons can be built. But caring about strangers cannot be taught. Fighting for people you love cannot be built. Humans already have strongest weapons in galaxy. Guardian Alliance just wants to help humans use those weapons better. Admiral Morrison looked around the table at her human colleagues.
We'd need to consult with Earth, with the Colonial Council, with the Fleet Command.
Of course, the infant agreed. Big decisions need many people thinking together.
But Fleet Captain says time is short.
Devourers will not wait for human meetings to finish. How long do we have to decide? Admiral Morrison asked. The infant's expression grew grave. Guardian scouts found new devourer swarm 3 days ago. Moving faster than expected. Maybe only 1 human year before they reach edge of human space.
The room fell silent.
1 year to prepare for a threat that could end human civilization. What happens if we say no? Sarah asked.
Guardianships still protect humans because of Mama's kindness to me.
But humans would face devourers with only human weapons, human knowledge. Might not be enough. And if we say yes? Humans become part of something bigger. Help protect galaxy. Learn to travel between far stars. Meet thousands of new species. Become guardians of life throughout universe. Admiral Morrison stood up slowly.
I need to contact Earth immediately.
This decision is beyond my authority. Understood, the infant replied. Guardian fleet will wait. But Fleet Captain asks humans to decide quickly.
Every day waiting is day closer to devourers. As the meeting broke up and the adults began making urgent communications to their respective authorities, Sarah found herself alone with her rapidly growing child.
Are you scared? She asked. Little bit, the infant admitted.
Big responsibility for someone who still remembers being small and helpless.
But Mama taught me that being scared is okay as long as you do right thing anyway.
Sarah held her child close, marveling at how much it had grown in such a short time. Not just physically, but in wisdom and strength and purpose.
What happens to us? She asked. If humanity joins this alliance, what happens to you and me?
We stay together, the infant said firmly.
I will have big job, but Mama is part of job too.
Guardian Alliance needs someone who understands humans, who can help other species learn human ways of thinking.
Who better than Mama, who saved first human HFY family?
Over the next several hours, Sarah watched the most important negotiation in human history unfold through her communicator. Earth's leaders, colonial governors, fleet admirals, and civilian councils all weighed in on humanity's response to the Guardian offer.
The debate was intense. Some argued that humanity wasn't ready for such responsibility.
Others worried about losing human independence and autonomy. Still others questioned whether the devourer threat was real or just Guardian propaganda designed to recruit new allies. But, in the end, it was Admiral Morrison who provided the deciding argument. 3 days ago, we discovered one injured alien infant, she said during the final conference call with Earth. Dr. Chen chose to save that infant rather than follow protocol and turn it over for study. That single act of compassion has given humanity allies we never could have found on our own and protection against threats we didn't even know existed. She paused, looking at Sarah and the infant. If one act of kindness can change the course of galactic history, imagine what humanity could accomplish if we brought that same compassion to the larger universe.
The Guardians aren't asking us to give up being human. They're asking us to be more human.
To extend our capacity for protection and caring beyond our own species.
The final vote was unanimous. Humanity would join the Guardian Alliance. The infant's skin blazed with patterns of joy and pride. Mama's people make good choice. Galaxy safer now. But, even as celebrations began throughout human space, Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that their real challenges were just beginning.
Joining the Guardian Alliance meant humanity would have to prove themselves worthy of the trust being placed in them. They would have to learn to think beyond their own needs and desires, to care for species they'd never met, to fight for causes that might not directly benefit them. It was, Sarah realized, exactly what she'd done when she chose to save one small alien infant. She'd put someone else's needs before her own safety and convenience. She'd acted out of compassion rather than calculated self-interest.
Maybe that was what made humans special.
Not their technology or their intelligence, but their capacity to love strangers. Mama, the infant said softly, thank you.
For what? For showing me what good people look like. For teaching me that protecting family is worth any risk. For proving that humans ready to be guardians too. Sarah kissed the top of her child's head, tasting starlight and possibility.
Thank you for trusting me, she replied. For choosing me as your family.
For showing me that love really can save the universe.
Outside the observation windows, the Guardian fleet prepared to escort humanity into its new role as protectors of galactic life. And, somewhere in the distance, ancient evil stirred and began moving toward human space. But, for the first time since discovering the crashed pod, Sarah felt truly hopeful.
Whatever came next, humanity wouldn't face it alone.
And, maybe, just maybe, their capacity for compassion would prove stronger than any force for destruction in the galaxy. The infant settled into her arms, already planning strategies for the challenges ahead. Tomorrow, they would begin teaching humanity to be guardians. Tonight, they were simply family.
And, sometimes, Sarah thought, that was enough to change everything.
2 years later, Sarah stood on the command bridge of the UES Compassion, watching the Devourer fleet approach human space with the terrible inevitability of a cosmic storm. The ship around her was a marvel of human and Guardian technology working in harmony. Its hull seemed to breathe, incorporating HFY biotechnology that allowed it to heal from damage and adapt to changing conditions. The weapons systems were based on Guardian designs but modified with human tactical innovations. Most remarkably, the ship's central intelligence was a fusion of human artificial intelligence and HFY living consciousness. Mama, they are beautiful in their own way, her child observed from beside her. The being who had once been a helpless infant was now fully grown, standing nearly 8 feet tall with skin that showed complex patterns reflecting its thoughts and emotions. It had chosen the name Zephyr during its adolescent phase, saying it liked the way the word felt in its new vocal cords. While unmistakably alien, its features had developed an expressiveness that made its emotions instantly readable to humans. Sarah had to admit that the Devourer ships did have a certain terrible beauty. They moved like living things, their dark hulls pulsing with veins of energy that suggested they were as much organism as machine. There were thousands of them, ranging from sleek scouts to massive capital ships that dwarfed anything humanity had ever built. Beautiful, maybe, Admiral Morrison said from the command station, but they're still coming to eat our planets. In the 2 years since humanity had joined the Guardian Alliance, everything had changed. Human ships now traveled between stars using Guardian slipstream technology.
Human colonies were defended by Guardian shield generators. Human soldiers fought alongside warriors from dozens of alien species.
But, the most important change had been in humanity itself. The Guardian Alliance wasn't just a military partnership. It was a fundamental shift in how humans thought about their place in the universe. They were no longer just trying to survive and expand.
They were actively working to protect and nurture life wherever they found it.
Sarah had become humanity's primary liaison to the Guardian Council, working with Zephyr to coordinate defense strategies that protected not just human worlds, but the colonies of 17 other species. Her medical background had proven invaluable in understanding the biological needs of different alien races and developing treatments for diseases that had plagued them for centuries.
Fleet status report, Admiral Morrison called out.
Guardian fleets are in position at sectors 7 through 12, reported Commander Chen, Sarah's younger brother who had volunteered for the integrated crew program.
Human forces are covering sectors 3 through 6. The Valdare crystal ships are providing deep space reconnaissance. And our special surprise? Admiral Morrison asked with a grim smile. Zephyr's skin pattern shifted to what Sarah had learned indicated predatory satisfaction. Project Stubborn is ready for deployment. Devourer fleets will find humans much more difficult to digest than they expect. Project Stubborn had been humanity's primary contribution to the Alliance's defensive strategy.
While Guardian technology was sophisticated and powerful, it followed predictable patterns based on millions of years of tactical evolution. Devourer fleets had learned to counter most Guardian strategies through simple adaptation.
But humans brought something to the Alliance that Devourers had never encountered: organized unpredictability. Human tactical doctrine emphasized improvisation, rapid adaptation, and the willingness to try strategies that made no logical sense.
Where other species developed elegant, efficient solutions to problems, humans developed dozens of chaotic, barely functional approaches that worked just well enough to confuse their enemies. The Devourers had evolved to consume civilizations that fought according to logical, predictable patterns. They had no experience with opponents who deliberately chose the least sensible available option. Incoming transmission from the Devourer fleet, reported the communications officer.
Let's hear it, Admiral Morrison said.
The voice that emerged from the speakers was like the sound of worlds dying, hollow and empty of everything except hunger.
Small warm things. You gather in groups like prey before the hunt. We come to feed on your life energy, to consume your growing places, to add your existence to our own. You cannot resist. You cannot flee. You can only feed us. Admiral Morrison looked at Sarah and Zephyr. Care to respond? Zephyr stepped forward, its skin blazing with patterns that somehow conveyed absolute defiance. This is Zephyr, last child of the HFY, speaking for the Guardian Alliance and the human people. We have a message for you. A pause.
Then, the Devourer voice returned, tinged with what might have been surprise.
The gardener spawn lives? We consumed your people long ago. Nothing should remain.
My people live on through those who carry their legacy, Zephyr replied calmly.
And that legacy says you will not consume these worlds. You will not feed on these people. You will turn back or be destroyed.
The Devourer response was like the sound of stars screaming.
Impossible. We are inevitable. We are entropy itself. All life feeds us eventually.
Then, you've never met humans, Admiral Morrison interjected. Lieutenant, broadcast the package. Throughout human space, a signal went out to every ship, every station, every colony.
Music began playing over all communication channels.
Not the harmonic complexities that Guardian species preferred, but simple, human music. Songs of defiance and hope and stubborn refusal to give up.
And then, one by one, humans began singing along.
It started with the crew of the Compassion. Commander Chen began humming an old Earth battle hymn, and, within moments the entire bridge crew had joined in. The song spread to other ships in the fleet, then, to other fleets, then, to colonies and stations throughout human space. 50 billion human voices raised in song, declaring their intention to fight for what they loved no matter the cost.
What is this noise? The Devourer voice demanded, and, for the first time it carried a note of confusion. It's called hope, Sarah said simply. And, it's about to ruin your day. The Devourer fleet opened fire first, sending streams of dark energy toward the human formation.
But, instead of meeting the coordinated defensive response they expected, they found chaos. Human ships scattered in all directions with no apparent coordination. Some ships retreated. Others charged directly at the Devourer line.
Still others began flying in seemingly random patterns that defied all tactical logic.
The Devourers had evolved strategies to counter organized resistance. They had no idea what to do with opponents who appeared to have no strategy at all.
Phase 1 complete, Zephyr announced with satisfaction.
Devourers are attempting to adapt to 17 different tactical patterns simultaneously.
They cannot achieve tactical lock. What the Devourers didn't realize was that the human chaos was entirely intentional.
Each ship was following one of dozens of preset movement patterns designed to create maximum confusion while still maintaining strategic positioning. To outside observers, the human fleet looked like it was in complete disarray. In reality, they were executing the most complex coordinated maneuver in military history. Phase 2, Admiral Morrison commanded. Suddenly, the chaotic human movement patterns revealed their true purpose. Ships that had appeared to be fleeing in terror were now positioned behind the Devourer formation. Ships that had been flying in random circles were now perfectly placed to attack from multiple angles. The apparent tactical disaster had been a carefully orchestrated trap. Impossible, the Devourer voice said again, but now it carried a note of something that might have been fear.
Order cannot emerge from chaos. This violates fundamental principles. Welcome to humanity, Sarah said.
The battle that followed would be studied in military academies throughout the galaxy for centuries to come. The Devourers, despite their vast technological superiority and eons of combat experience, found themselves completely unable to predict or counter human tactics. When the Devourers concentrated their forces to break through the human center, the humans simply melted away and reformed behind them. When the Devourers spread out to avoid being flanked, the humans concentrated their entire fleet against single targets. When the Devourers tried to retreat and regroup, they found that the humans had somehow gotten ships between them and their escape routes. How are they doing this? The Devourer voice demanded.
How are they maintaining coordination without central command? Zephyr answered with patterns of fierce pride blazing across its skin. Because humans do not need to be told to protect what they love. Every human ship captain knows what needs to be done.
They coordinate not through commands, but through shared purpose.
It was true.
The human fleet was operating according to principles the Guardian Alliance had never seen before. Instead of centralized command structures, each ship captain was making independent decisions based on the overall strategic situation.
The result was a fluid, adaptive defense that changed faster than any enemy could respond to. Guardian fleets, commence Phase 3, Admiral Morrison ordered.
Now the real trap revealed itself. While the Devourers had been focused on the chaotic human formations, Guardian ships had been moving into position using tactics they'd learned from humanity. Instead of their traditional precise, elegant maneuvers, the Guardian fleets had adopted human-style improvisation and unpredictability.
The result was devastating. The Devourers found themselves caught between two forces that refused to follow any known tactical doctrine.
Every time they adapted to human chaos, the Guardian fleets hit them with something completely different. Every time they tried to counter Guardian precision, the human fleets changed their entire approach. This is impossible, the Devourer voice was saying now, repeating it like a mantra.
Chaos cannot defeat order. Inefficiency cannot overcome perfection. Small warm things cannot resist the inevitable. Maybe not, Sarah admitted. But we can sure make it really annoying for you to try. The tide of battle was turning.
The Devourer fleet, despite its technological advantages, was being systematically dismantled by opponents who refused to fight according to any logical pattern. Ships that should have been destroyed were somehow surviving impossible odds. Formations that should have collapsed were holding together through pure stubbornness. Devourer fleet is requesting withdrawal terms, reported the communications officer, barely concealing his amazement. Tell them, Admiral Morrison said, that they can withdraw to whatever hole they crawled out of. But, if they ever threaten Guardian Alliance space again, we'll do this dance all over again.
And, next time, we might not be feeling so generous. The Devourer response was a long silence.
Finally, the dead voice returned, carrying something that might have been respect.
You fight like entropy itself. Like chaos given purpose. We cannot consume what we cannot understand. We withdraw.
But, know this, small warm things.
We will remember you. And, someday, we will return with new strategies.
We'll be waiting, Zephyr replied calmly.
And, we'll have new chaos ready for you.
As the Devourer fleet began its retreat, Sarah found herself thinking about the path that had led to this moment. It had all started with one simple decision: to save a helpless infant rather than follow protocol. That choice had led to humanity's introduction to the galactic community, their alliance with the Guardians, and, ultimately, to this victory over one of the galaxy's greatest threats.
Mama, Zephyr said quietly, do you ever wonder what would have happened if you had made different choice 2 years ago?
Sarah looked at her child, now a fully grown being who served as one of the galaxy's most important leaders, and smiled.
Sometimes.
But, then, I remember that the choice was never really about protocol or consequences.
It was about what felt right. And, saving you was the rightest thing I've ever done. Even knowing it would lead to all this? To humanity being forced into galactic politics, to wars against cosmic threats, to responsibilities we never asked for?
Sarah considered the question while watching the last of the Devourer ships disappear into slipstream. In the past 2 years, humanity had lost its innocence about its place in the universe. They'd learned that the galaxy was full of wonders, but also full of terrors. They'd gained incredible allies, but also made terrible enemies.
Especially knowing all that, she said finally. Because now I understand what you meant about humans being gardeners. We don't just protect what we love. We help it grow into something better than it was before.
Around them, the combined Guardian-human fleet was beginning the complex process of standing down from battle alert. Ships that had been trying to kill each other moments before were now coordinating rescue operations for survivors. Medical teams from dozens of species were working together to treat the wounded. Admiral, Commander Chen reported, were receiving surrender requests from 47 Devourer vessels.
Apparently, some of them are asking for asylum. Asylum? Admiral Morrison looked confused. What would Devourers want asylum from? Zephyr's skin pattern shifted to surprised comprehension. From other Devourers. Mama, I think some of them want to stop being Devourers. The implications were staggering.
If some Devourers could be convinced to abandon their destructive nature and join the Guardian Alliance, it would fundamentally change the balance of power in the galaxy.
What do we do with them? Admiral Morrison asked.
Sarah thought about her original medical oath: first, do no harm.
But, also, always try to heal what's broken.
We help them, she said. We figure out how to turn Devourers into gardeners.
Because that's what humans do. We help broken things become whole again. Zephyr's skin blazed with patterns of joy and pride. This is why Guardian Council chose humans for alliance.
Not because humans strongest fighters, but because humans always look for way to make enemies into friends. The war was over, but Sarah realized their real work was just beginning.
Humanity had proven they could defend the galaxy. Now they had to prove they could heal it. Set course for home, Admiral Morrison ordered. We have a lot of work to do.
As the UES Compassion turned toward Earth, Sarah held her grown child's hand and watched the stars will by. Somewhere out there were civilizations they had yet to meet, problems they had yet to solve, broken things waiting to be healed. Ready for the next adventure? She asked Zephyr.
Always, Mama. As long as we face it together.
Sarah smiled, thinking about the tiny infant she'd found broken in a crash pod 2 years ago. That helpless being had grown into something magnificent, a bridge between species, a voice for compassion in a harsh galaxy, and, most importantly, family.
Together, she agreed. Always together.
Behind them, former Devourer ships followed in the fleet formation, carrying beings who had chosen healing over destruction. Ahead of them lay Earth, where the greatest challenge would be convincing humanity that their real strength lay not in their weapons or their technology, but in their infinite capacity to care for strangers. It was, Sarah thought, exactly the kind of impossible task that humans were perfect for. Zephyr squeezed her hand, and, in that touch she felt the gratitude of 100 species, the hope of 1,000 worlds, and the love of a child who had taught the galaxy that sometimes the most powerful force in the universe was simply refusing to let someone die alone. In the end, that was what made humans special. Not their stubbornness or their chaos or their unpredictability. It was their absolute refusal to give up on the possibility that broken things could be fixed, that enemies could become friends, and that love really could save the universe.
One small act of compassion at a time.
Years later, when historians tried to trace the beginning of the golden age of the galaxy, they would point to massive battles, technological breakthroughs, and complex political negotiations.
But Sarah knew the truth.
It had all started in a medical bay on a remote research station, when one doctor decided that protocol was less important than compassion. The infant she had saved had grown up to save the galaxy. But, more than that, it had taught the galaxy how to save itself. And, sometimes, in quiet moments between crises, Sarah would remember holding that tiny, helpless being and promising that everything would be all right. It had taken 2 years of chaos, war, and impossible challenges, but she'd kept that promise.
Everything was all right. And it was going to get even better. Because humans never gave up on the people they loved.
And, now, the galaxy was full of people to love. The stars sang with the voices of 50 billion humans and their trillion allies, all working together to build something beautiful in the darkness. And, in the center of it all, a mother and child who had shown the universe that sometimes the most revolutionary act was simply caring for a stranger.
The adventure was just beginning.